stuff. I've also just this year kind of started doing my own educational beekeeping business, so Kendalsbees, hooray, where I do classes, much like this tutorial here. No need to worry about furiously writing all of this down on like how to make lip balm, because it's all on my website, which is kendalsbees.com. If you can't remember that, I have cards, you can pick it up after, but I've got like pictures and the text for all of this, so just enjoy. And I know a lot of people in here probably make their own lip balm, so if you have better ways of doing things, I'd love to hear them maybe at the end of the presentation. And if you have any questions about what I am currently doing, then just raise your hand and we'll kind of get some questions answered if you have anything. Well, without any further ado, then I'm going to show you guys how to make lip balm. So I usually put it in these nice like clear tubes, and yeah, label them. It's very, very simple to do. You can make like 10 tubes of lip balm in like 30 minutes, easy for sure. The equipment that I use, so what you need for this, like out of your home kitchen, I've kind of got this preheating already, but I've got like a little bowl, and it fits really nicely over top of this fine pot that I found on the internet. And basically what you want to do, I've got probably about like an inch of water in this pot, and I'm just setting up a double boiler to melt the wax at a lower temperature. So the equipment, I've got pot, I have bowl, some water, I use a whisk. I've also got a measuring spoon, so I need a tablespoon to measure out some of my ingredients. And then I just have some other spoons, scraping, spatula things to kind of clean off stuff. The specialty like lip balm stuff that you might need is lip balm tubes. So if you don't know where to get lip balm tubes, you can buy them from specialty online stores, but Amazon also sells these, primable, straight to your door, super easy to find. And they're not super expensive. You can usually get like probably 100 for maybe like, certainly under 30 bucks. I didn't look at the pricing on those ones. I also use pipettes, because if you're doing like a small batch of this stuff, to just fill the lip balm tubes, I just kind of suck up some of it and squish it into the lip balm tube, and you can get like a jillion of these for $3 on Amazon. If you're making large batches, so I just started playing with this thing, but this is basically, yeah, you have a question? Sure, science is happening. What is a pipette? So the pipette is really just a little like suction tube. So you squeeze the bulb of the pipette at the top, and you put it into a liquid and then release, and it sucks the liquid up into this thing. So it's basically just a method of precisely pouring something. So if you had like a measuring cup and you're trying to pour into these little tubes, it doesn't work very well. If you're filling something other than a lip balm tube, you can use like there are those sliding canisters, or there's like screw-topped containers. You can probably get away with just using a measuring cup, but I find this is a lot more precise for the lip balm tubes. And then this is kind of the mass quantities one, and you can also use a measuring cup on this thing. And the way this works, so it's just a little tray. It has a whole bunch of holes in it. You can buy these. These are mostly at the specialty lip balm stores, but you kind of just on the bottom fix the lip balm tubes in here, and then you can pour the lip balm just kind of on this sheet, and it'll fill all of the tubes at once. So it does 50 at a time. So if you're just starting out, you may want to go the pipette route, because that's kind of the small batch way to go. And I also kind of like how the tops of the lip balm's cool, like it's very smooth and nice with the pipettes and the pouring method, and this one it's kind of like a little flatter. So I like the pipettes, I'll stick with those guys. Ingredients wise, since most of the people here are beekeepers, probably have some beeswax and you're wondering what to do with your beeswax. To make 10 to 12 tubes of lip balm, I usually use only a ½ ounce of beeswax. So it doesn't take very much beeswax to make a lot of products. If you don't have your own beeswax and you're not a beekeeper, you can buy, usually you find beeswax pellets online, and they melt a lot faster than the little bricks that it's kind of easy to make as a beekeeper. I'm just gonna chuck this in here to start it melting while I keep talking, but I'll come back to it, I promise. The other ingredient is some sort of carrier oil. So I use almond oil or coconut oil. You can use pretty much any oil that suits your fancy, if you have like olive oil even. But I kind of tend to stick to more like beauty related oils. And the beeswax and the oil are the basis for lip balm. So that's really all you need to make a really basic lip balm. Yeah?
You probably want to stay away from nut oil because a lot of people have allergies.
Exactly. So if you want to avoid nut oil, so I do have a lot of people with almond oil allergies. That's why I also have the coconut oil, as they usually do better with coconut. Not really a nut. It's got a nut in the name. But if you do put nut oils in, make sure you're labeling that on the ingredients. Most people with nut allergies will diligently read that, looking for nut oil. I additionally add, I'm thinking of maybe axing this out of my recipe, but I do also use honey. It's a moisturizer. I think it's better in hand lotions because I think a lot of mine drops out of solution. So that's, if anyone has tips at the end, you're welcome to pitch that in. And then, if you're gonna add any extras, yeah?
I'm sorry, what do you mean by it drops out of solution?
So basically I'm gonna be mixing all of these ingredients together, and the wax and the oil melt together really well, and you kind of whisk it together and they stay mixed pretty well. When you're cleaning beeswax, usually like when you melt it, all the honey drops out of that solution, so it's not like purely mixed. I can, like, if you guys have any tips on this, if you're lip balm makers, just the heat of the solution causes the honey to separate from the rest of the oils.
It happens in soap too. I haven't figured it out yet.
Yeah, so maybe Janet will maybe bestow some wisdom upon us. So other than that, like honey is like a kind of a natural like moisturizer as well, so it is used in a lot of beauty products. And I additionally add flavoring. So on kind of the lower, like do-it-yourself at home end of things, you can use something as simple as vanilla extract with coconut oil. That's kind of on the DIY side. If you want some more complex flavors, like I use spearmint, I use essential oils to get that flavoring. And specialty lip balm stores will also sell like just cosmetic flavoring. So there's like, I have a gingerbread house flavor, which smells very nice. With the essential oils, basically what you want to be careful of is like, do look those up online, because if you add too much of it, you can cause skin sensitivity, light sensitivity. Like essential oils are a very potent version of whatever oil you're using. So when I'm using essential oils, for 10 tubes of lip balm, I only use like 5 drops. And that gives me the smell I need, and I haven't had any like adverse reactions. Yeah?
Should it be a food grade? Or
Yeah, I try to make it food grade just because like I'm putting it on my skin, it's on my mouth, so I'm looking for things that are definitely food grade. Because I think you can get some non-food grade coconut oil, but I always get like cooking coconut oil. And that's why I'm getting like this flavoring is specifically like from a lip balm cosmetics supply, because you don't want to use like just not all like lavender fragrance oils. Sometimes that is like a smell fragrance, and that's not a cosmetic fragrance. So a lot of times this will be noted, and if you don't know, ask the seller of this, like that supplier. Whole Foods has a lot of cosmetic grade ones. You can also, so I don't have it here, but if you want to color your lip balm, you can do it yourselfers. So I've never done this, but you can do it with like lipstick is one way to color something. So you can just like kind of scrape off a little bit of lipstick and mix that in. I think the beeswax by itself is beautiful, so I just keep it normal. So that is kind of all the stuff that you need. Yes?
Have you tried doing any iridescent or frost to your lip balms?
Now, have I tried adding any iridescent or frost to my lip balms? No, I haven't. But you could. There's also, like, I think there's some sunscreen additives you can find. Like, so there's a lot of tutorials online. Like, you can do a lot of stuff with this. And I haven't done everything yet. So, yeah. All right, well in that case, that's all the materials you need to get started. So once you have that, I'm using a little hot plate, but you've probably got a stove or something at home. And you can kind of see that this is just like barely steaming. My water isn't even bubbling. So I have it at a pretty low temperature. My cooktop says it's at 180 degrees, but I think it's a lie. I don't know, it's not very accurate. So I just kind of eyeball it, like my water's not even bubbling here, and it's melting everything quite slowly. So the beeswax has been thrown in and it is melting. So I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's a puddle of beeswax. So I'm melting that. I might kind of kick the temperature up a little tiny bit to expedite that. But I usually melt my beeswax first, just because it is the thing that takes the longest to melt. Coconut oil might be solid. I think it's like 70 or 80 degrees where it becomes a liquid again. So if that's a liquid, you can measure it out. I'm going to use almond oil because it's already a liquid. And for this, I'm using, again, 1/2 ounce of beeswax. And this isn't open. But I'm going to use 3 tablespoons of some sort of carrier oil. So again, I'm using almond oil. And you can just chuck that in to your mixture. 2, 3. And sometimes adding the cold oil solidifies some of your wax again. Yeah, if you guys can't see, like, feel free to like pop up and look. But sometimes the cool oil solidifies some of the wax again. Just wait for it all to be liquid by the time you move on. And I'll usually add my honey last because, again, I want to keep things at a lower temperature so there's less likelihood for the honey to drop to the bottom and the wax to float to the top. Yeah.
Do you change the ratios based on the oil you're using, or is it always the same?
I don't. I found that this was like a pretty nice ratio. I do find that my coconut oil lip balms are a little softer, so they definitely feel a little wetter, and the almond oil feels a little firmer. But I typically stick to that ratio. But if you want to try making like a small batch first, you can definitely adjust, because I think there's kind of a wide range that you can do this in. So if you like wetter lip balms, or if you like really hard lip balms, basically just add more oil for softer and less oil for firmer. So, yeah.
Is the purpose of beeswax to make it firmer, or is there some other purpose?
I think it's to make it firmer. It makes it firmer. If you're looking at like some sunscreen, like really natural sunscreens, it's also a waterproofer. So I think it like holds in moisture a little bit better. But yeah, it does make it firmer also.
And it smells good.
Yeah, and it smells delicious. So, all right. So my stuff is kind of all melted together. I still have like a little resistant piece of beeswax, but I'm just gonna whisk it together. And you don't have to whisk like diligently. You're not like whipping air or anything in it. You just want to stir it and make sure it's all the same consistency, so the oil and the beeswax are thoroughly mixed. And I add my scent absolutely last, like when I'm ready to put it in, because as you add like essential oils, stuff like that, you tend to, like, you smell it, and you know those like little heating trays that release aromas and things, so you're basically degrading the scent. So the longer you leave it on the heat with scent in it, the less scent you're actually getting in your lip balm. So that's why I wait till the very end. I don't just chuck everything in at once. But I'll add this just so I can show you what happens when you add honey, and it does drop out of solution. So I'm eyeballing this of 1/2 of a teaspoon of honey. So, and again, like a lot of that is dropping out of solution for me. So I might adjust my recipe to no longer have honey in it. Still, the beeswax kind of maintains a honey-ish smell to me. But, so I'll whisk that guy up. And what the honey looks like to me, it like kind of beads up a little bit on the bottom when it has dropped out of solution. So there's a little tiny bit, and I'll kind of show you what it looks like when I start bottling. And I feel like making gingerbread lip balm because it's kind of getting to the holidays and it smells nice. So this one doesn't have like a nifty dropper, so I'm just using my pipette. You can use whatever you want. You can measure it out in like 1/4 teaspoons. For this one, since it's a cosmetic oil, it is diluted with its own oil and flavoring. I use a bit more of it. So again, the essential oils, I'm only adding like 5 drops tops for 10 tubes of lip balm. This one, I'm gonna try and count out 15 drops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And you can come up after, but it smells very gingerbready over here right now. I'm just gonna whisk that together. And this is usually the point where I kind of like either turn off my burner, or since I have a burner that goes down to a really low temperature, I've just turned it down to the lowest setting. I just wanna mix everything together. And I've kind of pre-prepared my lip balm tubes, so this is kind of like the preheating step of your baking procedure. But I've got all the caps off my lip balm tubes. They come with the roller all the way down, so you're filling it all the way up. And since I'm using that pipette, I've just kind of lined up my tubes here so that I don't have to futz with like getting them. I just want to fill them all at once. If you're using, crap. That happens. So if you're using the tray, that happens a lot less.
Rubber band helps. You just
Oh,
put
what?
rubber band around them, and then they're also really close together, so you can actually pour and not have it.
Carolyn, you've changed my life. That's amazing. Yeah, so if you didn't hear Carolyn, so if you want to avoid bumping your table and knocking everything over, just rubber band them all together. So I will be doing that on all future lip balm making procedures. So with this one, squeeze the bulb of the pipette and then you stick it in the liquid and release, and then it sucks up liquid. That's how the pipette works. And I just stick it into the tube. Usually takes me a few goes. So right now you're probably seeing the advantage, like if I was making 50 of these, to using the tray, I can just pour all at once. But I fill it all the way up to the very top when it's kind of like almost bulging. And then as it cools, it'll kind of become a little concave. So you want to fill it all the way up to the top. Did someone have a question?
I was going to ask if there was expansion, so it's the opposite.
Yeah, so as it cools, it contracts a little bit. So this is the very exciting part of the demo, where you watch me go back and forth with these things. And I'm trying kind of carefully not to go over the sides. Usually if it drips down the sides, I have troubles getting my labels to stick a little bit better because you've just gotten oil down the side.
And in about how long are they solid?
It does not take long for them to become solid. Like I can usually move them gently. They're like warm and soft at about 5 minutes. And then they're completely cool usually within an hour. I usually don't put them in the fridge. Like sometimes, like if it's a little firmer, I guess it could crack, but I find that mine cool enough to get the tops on within a few minutes.
Does the fridge be better if you don't use them all at once?
So with these ones, I've had one tube for about 2 years now and managed to not lose it, which is miraculous, I think, for lip balm. And I find that there's like, this really isn't perishable. I think some beauty products would have you add like yogurts or juices, and those are going to be more perishable, but this is really like oils and beeswax. So I haven't noticed that in 2 years it's gone bad. So I don't keep them in the fridge. I keep them in my purse. They go in the front seat of my car. To be careful with this, like this is not anything artificial. It is all natural. So if it goes in the front seat of your car, it is melting and is going everywhere. So you've been warned.
We have a question on is the temperature change during this? Or is the temperature
I
okay?
did drop the temperature just at the very end. So I meant to keep it at about 180. I popped it up to 200 degrees just to get my beeswax to melt a little faster. But if you have patience or more time, you don't have to raise the temperature above that. And right now, at home, if you've got like a gas burner, I would just have it off. And if it starts to solidify in here, you can turn your burner back on. But it should stay pretty warm. I think the main idea with lip balm is to keep it at a lower temperature, and again, that keeps your ingredients from separating, and it also tries to keep the honey from dropping out of solution. So I'm almost done filling. But as I get to the bottom, if you guys want to take a look in here, there starts to be like my honey spots. So this is it dropping out of solution. So those spots at the bottom are honey. If you put this into your lip balm tube, it's going to do the same thing in there, and it's going to drop to the bottom of the lip balm tube. So your last little bit might just be like sticky honey mess. And you can kind of tell, so if I'm sticking the pipette all the way to the bottom, you can even see that in your pipette. Right now you're kind of far away, but you can clearly see there's this like golden yellow lip balm at the top, and then at the bottom there's kind of either like a clear or like a brown color, and that's the honey that I've sucked up. Luckily it does drop so that you can just like go like this until you see all one consistency. So I dropped the honey back into the bowl, and then I can continue filling. And as it gets to the bottom, it gets easier to suck it up. So I'm usually sucking from like the very edges of my lip balm puddle.
So are you putting the honey in there just to put more honey essence, since you're not really wanting the honey inside of it?
It was kind of the, like the original recipe that I started using called for honey, but once I started realizing what was happening, I'm like, oh, maybe I should just stop adding it. So I'm kind of at that phase. So right now I just added it for kicks. And for you guys to see like what happens when it goes wrong. Yeah, but again, like I think some people have had success, and the lower temperature you do it at, the less likely it's to happen. And when you're doing lotions, that as it cools and firms up, you're whisking, that kind of keeps the honey evenly distributed. So I think a honey might work better in a lotion than a lip balm. So again, I'm gonna axe the honey out of my recipes pretty soon. But that's pretty much it, and you can see already that like as I've been filling, some of these are cool. I think this one's even, yeah, this one's warm right now, but clearly it's not falling out, so there we go. And once it's cool, like so if you squeeze this while it's still warm, you can crack the top so it won't be this like perfect, beautiful thing. So I usually wait till they cool a little bit more than this to put the caps on, but you can kind of cap it whenever you feel like, and now it's done. Hooray!
How long do you let it cool?
I usually let it cool, again, like that was kind of like a 5-ish minute cooling, but I usually let it go like 10 to 15 minutes before capping it, or I might even let it go an hour to be a lot more cool.
Cool. Thank you so much.
No problem. And if you guys want to label these afterwards, I've got, I found these like really pretty clear labels. You can get them online from a lot of places. Amazon actually only sells like some kind of like paper labels, which I found didn't look as nice, but I think I get mine from like Labels Only. There's two of them. There's like Labels Online and Labels Only, and there's a lot of label printing things. But these ones have even like safety seals on them. You can get the little like shrink wrap tubes that go around lip balms. Like you can go really fancy with this from the specialty stores. But I think the easiest one is like Amazon has the paper labels. It just depends on how pretty you want to be with your product. So, does anyone have any other questions?